Hello, welcome to episode. Well, I guess this is episode 6 of the Grip podcast, but I guess this is more like a side piece because today I am answering a user question by a guy named Philip. I was going to read the question out now. He said, could you do a video breaking down what a typical conversation between you and a girl looks like at different checkpoints of your date? Like sample interactions that you can remember off the top of your head or something akin to that. So, I'll start by saying I will do my best to break it down what I do kind of from like point A to point Z. So everything along the way. Obviously, each date is different, but yes, I do have a general structure which I stick to, a general way of doing things, which kind of just makes things easier for me. So after a while now, I don't have to think about certain things I'm doing on dates because I know it's natural. I just go, okay, whatever. And after kind of all these years, I've picked up the reference points. So there's 9 things that I can do, and it's not really gonna get necessarily called out or anything, or like it's not a big deal. Like socially, it's just not breaking any norms. So I guess without further ado, let's kind of go through the checklist of things that I do on dates. So obviously, you've met a girl, you've got her number, or you've met her on an app or whatever. It doesn't really matter what the situation is. The first thing I'd say is I keep messaging to an absolute minimum before meeting up for the first time after the first, like, whether you meet her or the app or whatever. I like to just keep the mystery alive. Like, this person wants to meet me the next day, so I'll just send them like a message saying like, blah blah blah. Hey, it's nice to meet you. I'd like to take it out for a drink, just get to know you better, something like that. There's no crazy like lines, like I'm not trying to like sneakily get her out and under the guise of being friends. It's pretty obvious that what I'm asking for is a date, usually. Sometimes they even use the word date. I guess some people don't recommend that, but I think it's fine. Everyone knows what it is. This is for all adults here. So yeah, texting is just purely kind of for logistics and it all depends. So texting for logistics. Let's say we arrange a date and it's 2 weeks out. I will sort of ping her the odd little thing every 4 days or so, just to keep stoking the fire. So what you don't want to do is just have a date that's potentially 2 weeks out for whatever reason. Someone's on holiday or you're just busy, your schedules don't match, and you're coming up a day before, haven't spoken to her for 2 weeks, and got still up for that date. And she's like, oh, I didn't hear from you, so I planned something, which maybe that happened to me before, I'm not sure. Potentially. Anyway, so keeping it in... yeah, so I keep my texting kind of inconsistent on purpose, just so she's not too used to anything in particular with me. So, and when it comes to the actual date itself, like organising it, you, the man, decide that the time, the place, and the kind of vibe that you're going for on the date. Occasionally you'll get girls who try and hijack that and recommend things and all these kinds of, like, I think I was like, literally like last week, I said to a girl, let's go on a date to get to know each other. She was like, oh cool, let's do this. She goes, can you do Saturday during the day, we'll go for a walk in the park and get coffee? And I was just like, no. Like, I don't think I was free, but even if I was free, I wouldn't have been doing that for a date at that time. Not the kind of vibe that I was going for. So I just said no. We've rescheduled the date now for like a weeknight at 7 p.m. in a bar. So this is what it's about. You have to like lead that interaction from the start, and you have to let them come into your frame rather than you fall into theirs. Because next thing you know, you're on for a coffee date, walking around the park in the middle of the day, and it's like, what is this really like? Anyway, so I'd rather, when I'm dating, so I'd rather, get to know someone in a more, I think that's a more relaxed environment in a bar. It's more natural, more what people are used to. Walking around with a coffee, something it's more like to do with my mother or my auntie or something like that. We're going for a walk, lovely jubbly kind of thing. Anyway, another thing that when I'm organising these things, I generally do is try to make the logistics play as much my favour as possible. So if she is local to me, perfect. We will go for a drink in a pub or whatever, about 10 minutes from my house. And that's, yeah, no prizes for guessing what that's all about. And I'm pretty shameless about making it favourable towards me. Like, most women know where I live. Well, usually I tell them roughly the area that I live in and where we want to meet. They can kind of read into that and be like, okay. Sometimes they're a little, if they're on the other side of the city, something different, I'll go somewhere that's accessible to me, but doesn't sound like it's necessarily that close to me. So I can go, oh, let's go here. She'll be like, okay, that sounds fine. So, like, you don't have to be a complete arsehole, but like, come and meet 5 minutes from my house, because that's just like, women will smell that a little bit and be like, come on, like, I can see what you're doing, but you have to make it like, give it plausible deniability, like, oh, I just like this place, so I wanted to try it, and whatever. So you kind of just got to massage it. There's an art to it, which you'll just have to get used to. All right, so let's go to the actual date. So actually, no, let's go to the day of. I'll probably just send her. I usually just send a text in the morning saying like, just confirming the plan, saying meet you here, this time, this place. Looking forward to it, and that's usually just quite a strong positive message for her. Like some guys are like, you got to play aloof and all this stuff. I'm like, no, I usually tell women I'm looking forward to meeting them because I am. So it's not necessarily like, oh, I'm trying to be like, too cool for school or whatever. Like I just say, yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and then like usually like, yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well. There's a reason why you go to meet each other, you find each other attractive, so there's no shame in that. Like, you want to show that and convey that. Okay, so let's go on to when we meet. Usually I inadvertently like 5 minutes late for dates. I don't know why it's a thing. Don't bother messaging her. She'll usually just tell you where she is and be like, oh, I'm here, blah blah blah. Meet me. Then you go up to them, meet them. I usually go for a kiss on both cheeks and sort of like a half hug kind of thing. Sounds like really into like detail, but that's just generally what I do. I do the same thing every time, but that just breaks the touch barrier straight away, and you don't have to worry about that. But something, just general feedback from women I've had on dates is that like, as I literally just mentioned about how like you necessarily don't want to be too cool for school, it's because the reason why I've started saying things like, oh, I'm looking forward to meeting you, is because I come across as too cool for school. That is just my vibe. Like, well, especially ones I've dated for a long time, I'm like, oh, I thought you didn't like me. That's because when I turn up, I generally just have a face of like quite a neutral face, like, and then it takes me a while to warm up to them and the situation, and I don't necessarily try and fight it anymore. Like, I just did a podcast on the energy, obviously, and it's still bringing fun and positive energy, but just it's kind of like laced, especially in the first like 5-10 minutes, it's laced with a bit of like she's feeling a bit like and I don't know, usually generally that seems to be working out for the best for me. So I'm not saying like recommend us turning up and like ignoring and looking pissed off, but just something that's been fed back to me over time, like, yeah, I wasn't sure you liked me, and then here we go, turns out now I'm in bed with you. So I think depending on what the goal is, if your goal is to take her back on your first date, the venue that you pick, the first one, you want it to just be like quite a light and airy venue, like a pub, just for like the getting to know you. Usually the conversations initially, especially for like a online thing, the conversation is gonna naturally be a little bit sort of stilted and not necessarily as free flowing within the first sort of 15 minutes, and you kind of have to allow for that and just kind of throw that away. I'm like, okay, yeah. So there's gonna be like, she's gonna be a bit nervous. You gotta account for just like Stu. Like I was on a date this week actually, and this girl started to ask me like really sort of like almost like interview question, and I was like, nah, that's not the vibe I'm really looking for right now. So like I've kind of switched it up a bit, but it's inevitable with the nervousness that kind of happens. Yeah, but something just also to realize that early on in the thingy, your conversation is very surface level, very normal, very like conversation you could be having with your nan or like your just like a colleague or something like that, very surface level. This is, I kind of break my dates into like chapters or chunks or acts or stanzas, whatever you want to look at it. So like the first one, let's say like it's a play, like a 3-act play, the first bit is very like, oh, like, you know, if someone's watching this, they're like, ooh, is this date going well? Genuinely, I probably would think people would be like that, like whatever, you know, we're laughing, but it's very like getting to know you. I'm conveying things in like a more subtle way, just in terms of the way I'm speaking and whatever, and I'm very more reserved, like so what she's actually doing, she's qualifying herself. So the kind of conversation we're having, I'm asking her questions, you know, probing a little bit, like what would you be like if you did this, blah blah blah, those kind of questions, just trying to see what her personality is like, getting to know her and sort of reacting on her answers. So that's very important to realise that early on, your conversation is going to be very normal, very, you don't need to be doing anything amazing. It's not like, you know, you're out there like, oh, I've got to impress her, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. No, you're on a date, she has to impress you as much as you, quote unquote, have to impress her, which you know, I'm at the point now where I'm like, I don't really care if I impress her on a date. If the vibe's good, the vibe's good. If it's not, it's not. You can go home and knock one out, whatever. So I like to just drop little things every so often that just kind of like spark up the interaction a little bit. So let's say we're in. So it's going back to like the structure of the day, back on the standards actually. So like I like to break them up with things like drinks and toilet breaks. So like this just sounds like really weird, but that's how I do things. If the conversation's flowed into something which I'm not really thinking is like that good, I'll go to the bathroom. And I'll open and go to the bathroom twice in 20 minutes, because if the conversation's like not going the way I want it to, be like, right, let's have a pause, give her a second just to like sit down, go for her phone, do whatever she wants to do, and then, you know, you come back and you can broach another topic. I'm like, oh, we were talking about that earlier, let's go down that path or something like that. So that's a way that I do things to make sure that things are going in the right direction. So actually, so this week's been a great example. So the past 7 days, I went on 2 first dates, and both times the girls ended up coming back to my place. One of them, I did sleep with, the other one, she ended up just sucking me off. So yeah, all right, like good, good results. I'm happy with that. And you know, and it's funny enough, one of those girls did say like, I thought you didn't like me. She said those words, and I was like, well, no, I did. It's just my face. And she's like, oh, okay. And then that's when, you know, slowly start ramping things up. And that's the reason why I personally like to use like verbal cues of like me, of like interest. So I'll be like, oh, okay, oh, you look great, you blah blah blah, like bloody hell, that dress is fucking hot, or turning me on, or something like that. Depends on what stage of date you're at. But yeah, within that first stanza, that first drink, keep things light, keep things airy. So usually in that first bit, I have 2 drinks, conversations about service level things. We'll talk about maybe mutual interest. Does she like what I like? What have you been reading this week? Dropping a bit of knowledge as well. Like, you know, you want to convey that you're an intelligent man, of, you know, you've got you're multifaceted and things like that. That's kind of when you're conveying that kind of stuff, and that's when you're like in my head I'm going, that's where I'm like socially like showing that I'm presentable, and I've got a thumbs up, I know how to behave, I know how to like dress up and whatever, and those kind of things. That's what the first act is for. Really important, just to think, all right, is this person socially weird? Like a lot of women, they've got thousands of date stories about guys who are odd, and I actually usually ask guys about that. I'm like, oh, tell me a story about when a guy was strange, just to be like, it's a bit of like a, I know that I know that kind of behaviour is not acceptable kind of thing, and you're kind of above that, and you're both laughing at it. So that's a thing that I do like to do. Another thing I like to do at this point, you can sit back and just let them talk. Sit back, neutral face. That's from 60 Years of Challenge. And just say, hey, tell me more about that. That's just little things like that. So you're not really giving her too much to go off, and then she starts qualifying herself, and it's like backward rationalization. But if you're qualifying yourself, that must mean I'm attracted to them. So stuff like that. And then you realize, yeah, looking good. All right. So usually after like the second drink, I will just get up randomly and say, let's go. Like, I won't say where we're going, I'll just say, let's go. And then sometimes girls ask where we're going, some of them just follow you, which is kind of what you want. They just want you, just fall into my frame and follow me, we're going to go. So what I'll do is I'll get up, start walking, okay, let's find another bar. I'm going to find another bar. So at this point we're outside, and I'm like, okay. Also, that's probably the point where I'll kiss her as well. I'll kiss her the first time. And when I usually kiss her for the first time, usually 2-3 seconds, and pull back and go, and sort of like a small nod of approval. And then the reaction is usually like, oh, what was that supposed to mean? It's like, no, that's good, it's good. And then sort of grab a hand and start walking towards the next place. Something like that. That's something that I would do, and it's worked numerous times. Like, it's the point where like, I don't even think about it anymore. So second venue is usually a bit darker, a bit more edgy, a bit like whatever. It depends on when it is, how it is, and what your vibes you like before, but usually a place with like a sofa is great, where you can sit next to her, touching consistently thigh on thigh kind of thing, so you can put your hand on the leg, not an issue. Also at this point you've kissed her. And then once you've done that as well, it kind of breaks that weird sort of like, oh, we're just, what does he think of me? He goes, oh, he likes me. So usually at that point she kind of relaxes and goes, okay, fine, all that qualifying I've done's paid off, and I can start, whatever. And that's when you start getting into like, instead of the, I'm Mr. Presentable social situation, that's where you show your other side, where I'm a bit more like dominant, and there's a side to you, and that's something which you convey a lot more with eye contact and the touch and everything like that. And that's why that second venue is important, because you can't really convey that in the same way in the first venue, because in the second venue you're aided by like the dark corners, the different mood and everything. Pardon me. Okay, so the one thing also just to bear in mind is that when you're in these venues, I generally like to try and keep it as discreet as possible. So once I've gone into like this seedier, edgier venue, I'm not going to just start like making out of her in the corner. That's not kind of what it is. We'll go in, and then it's kind of like, maybe hold a hand a bit, go to the bar. This is where you're having more, maybe like a cocktail, or like sometimes you end up doing shots. Like depends on the vibe. Of course, like just keep the actual amount of alcohol you're having to like a minimum if you can. Just just to make sure everyone's sober and aware of what's going on. You don't want to have anything ridiculous happening. But yeah, this is the point where the conversation gets real. This is where you start probing her. This is where you start asking some of the more, not necessarily dirty questions, but innuendos are usually brought up more at this point. And this is where, like, if there is an innuendo brought up, just say, oh, maybe you can say something that's a little bit edgy. Can't think of an example right now, but when she reacts to it, but oh, you got a dirty mind. So this is where you're accusing her of a dirty mind, her trying to like potentially lead you astray. So that's the kind of side you're saying, that she's the the sexual aggressor and you're the young innocent little lamb that's going to be taken away. With your words, that is, but with your face, it's certainly completely different. You're looking at her, you're smirking, and she knows what's going on. You know, she knows. It's fun. It is hella fun. And as I always like to mention, you're creating a little us bubble between you two of you. A little us bubble. You're in that venue, and you could be sitting down talking about other people, stuff like that. But in that moment, you two, and that's so I like to say, like, at this point in the universe, in the point of time, you two are connecting at a deeper level than she probably has with a lot of other guys recently. Like, if you can do that and convey that kind of energy, you're just gonna be onto a winner all the time. Like, if you're too nervous or too something, just too passive, I think it's probably a good time to put it, too passive about things, you're not going to be able to convey these things, because she's not going to really lead the interaction for you. You have to be doing it yourself. She'll go with you if she's up for it, no problem, but she's not going to take the first step. So it's up to you to be leading it. And that's where it goes back down to like one of those leaps of faith. So, like, on a date, you have like various leaps of faith. You have the first kiss. Oh no, the first leap of faith actually probably is on the date, is just getting up and walking out and going to the next venue. I think that's probably the first leap of faith. It's a small one. It's a small, like, escalation. I was going to say, like, what is the smallest escalation you can do at any point just to move the interaction forward? That's like a good mindset to have. Like, what's the single smallest thing I can do? In that situation, yeah, getting up, small escalation, leap of faith, walked out. You've walked out, gone for a little, if you've walked down the road, I usually stop and say, come here. And they're like, they know what's up. And you're kissing. That's another big leap of faith. So like, my leap of faith is literally, for me, I know like my trigger point is when I'm walking with her and I've stopped walking, maybe I'm holding her hand and she feels like the tug and I sort of pull her in. For me, that's my leap of faith trigger point. You have to make it a big deal. Just remember, it's normal, it's casual, it's like, this is what two people should be doing on a date like this. I mean, all she can do is say no and whatever. I mean, it does happen. She'll be like, oh, I'm not ready. Or in fact, that happened with one of the girls this week. First one, she, I did exactly what I said. Walking down the street, stop, and she goes, oh, I don't think I'm ready for that yet. I said, that's fine, no problem. Kept walking. And she was like, oh God, I feel so awkward, like, oh, because I literally do want to kiss you, oh my God, And, I was just like, don't worry about it, like, just, I was laughing. She goes, oh, is it weird if I kiss you now? I was like, don't worry about it. Change subject. We got to the next venue, and just outside, I kissed her there, and she was like, okay, yeah, down, whatever. So that's kind of what it's about. You've got to be socially intelligent about it, because as much as women are generally more socially intelligent than men, they're also going to be way more awkward and to get way more in their heads about stuff, and you just got to be like, I can guide you out of that. So that is the next leap of faith. And then the last leap of faith usually is like do you want to come back to mine? Do you want to take this on to somewhere more private? Like, you've had venue 1, which is the like airy place. Venue 2, the like Arcadia bar sofa setup, and then you got venue 3, which is your place, whatever place you want to go to with her, and that is the leap of faith. Get to that point, because that's when she can go like Act 3, this is where we're heading into Act 3, she can go, actually, this film is not what I thought it was going to be, I'm going to switch it off. Or, I'm reading this book, no. And I think the reason why I build lots of these conscious breaks in there is fewfold, really. One, the breaks give her a chance to. This is I'm talking about the toilet breaks and the moving between venues as well. That they work like natural breaks as well because it's like a release of tension and stuff like that. But like, let's say go into the bathroom. The reason why I have those breaks is because it's like, okay, gives her a second. She gets to think, what's going on here? Do I want to do this? Like, we want really, we want women going, yep, I'm down for this, whatever. Like, if she wants to walk away and leave, go. Like, that's not my problem. Like, in terms of told girls, like, yeah, you can leave. Like, whatever, and kind of encourage it. And then they've actually gone, oh, actually, no, actually, no, I don't want to leave. That's kind of what happened with this girl who didn't want to kiss me. She ended up coming back to mine. We didn't have sex because she was on her period. But, we're meeting up tomorrow, actually, so hopefully that should be another tick. And she was like, oh, I can't do this, I've got to go, like, all these excuses are coming out, like, the standard, like, oh, what are people going to think, kind of thing, even though no one knows what's going on, because it's very anonymous, like, I don't know anyone she knows. We were walking to my place, no one's walking down the street taking pictures of us, looking at us, and she kind of realises that it's like a faux sort of like putting up. So I said to her, like, okay, all right, I'll give you the actual breakdown of it. So we're in venue 2, stanza 2. We walk out, and she goes, oh, I think I've got to go because I've got a thing in the morning. And I said, why didn't you come back to mine for one more? And she looks at me and she goes, I know what you mean by that, you're going to try and have sex with me. Well, I'm on my period. And I said, well, that's fine. Like, we can just go back and chat. Don't worry about, like, sex. Like, and that's a good point, actually. Like, just because the girl's come back to yours doesn't necessarily mean she wants to have sex. It's probably, like, an indicator she's probably more open to it, but, there's still hurdles and stuff to be overcome. Just like, alright, fine, I'll come back to yours. Like, so then we're walking back to mine, blah, 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 blah. And I could tell she's a bit like, oh my gosh, I don't do this often. And sometimes it's like, when girls say I don't do this often, I generally tend to believe them. Because the girls who do this more often, I kind of see what happens. You can kind of see they're very easy with it. And it's like, oh, back to mine, okay, cool. And they're usually just doing like a little chuckle, like, oh, I like the way you played that, like, but the girls who are more, like, a little bit less experienced with it, kind of going, ooh, and I kind of, like, realise that in their head that, like, all the stories about their friends, maybe the more sluttier friends who go around and do that, they go, oh, fuck, that's me, I'm doing that, oh, God, but I really do like this guy, or what should I do? And they kind of have that cognitive dissonance where they're actually a bit horny because you've kissed them a few times and they're like, okay, so I'm horny for this guy, whatever. And then they're like, okay, alright, what should I do? Blah, 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 blah. And at the end of the day, what you do is you move your 2 feet, you walk, and she wants to follow you, she can follow you. That's up to her. Yeah. And then in terms of like your place, make sure your place is stocked with what you need. Like, I usually just have like a bottle of wine or 2 spare, or maybe a couple of beers, but I usually tend not to drink too much when we get back, because I think that's what she wants. And usually, like, I say it's a waste of a drink anyway, because you're not talking, and the drink's kind of just there as like as a prop more than anything. Like, you could put water in a glass and you'd be drinking it, it's like fine. So even if you just go back and say, I'd have some water or something instead, same thing. You take it back to like a. So I usually take it back, sit in my lounge, and that's when we start talking about like, talking about like my place and like more like quite normal, boring things. Like, it goes back to like from venue 2, which was like really more like a bit dirty conversations, more like relationship history, what you're into, that kind of stuff. Venue 3, my place, is back to just like actual normal life stuff again. Just like you need to have that sort of like contrast again, because you maybe like, cause you've put it on, you've made more like bigger moves on venue 2. You're talking about like, oh, what kind of guys you're into, and then she'll tell you about like maybe a description of like if she likes you, it will sound probably quite a lot like yourself. That's what I found. So then when she's back at yours, you need to kind of, you know, you can. I find the conversation usually drifts back to something a bit more normal, but then the physical touch and the whatever is still there. Like that bit's not gone. So this is where you might kiss a little bit and go, and then maybe take on a little bit more, and then pull back and go, enjoy that, a little bit more chat, and then let's take this into the bedroom. And usually there's, at that point, like, there's very little, like, resistance. Like, most women are savvy and clued up and realise, what's going on. And, of course, this is 2023, get your consent, fellas. Like, don't do anything stupid and ruin your life just because, you're a bit horny. So it's not worth it. So let's not do that, anything like that. Get your consent and move the interaction forward. So, and then at that point you're on the home stretch. You've got her in your bedroom, and it's usually just at that point, like, you shouldn't be having any issues. So in general, my dates go like that. Oh yeah, crap! I'm going on a date tonight. Actually, that's what it was. Yeah. We'll see how that goes. And that date is actually about 15 minutes from my house. So I'm not going to put money on it. I don't usually tend to think like, oh, they're definitely going to sleep with every girl. Sometimes women suffer really strong frames. They're not going to do that. That's up to them. But I'm always prepared for it. So tidy the place up before I leave. Make sure I've got condoms, all those kind of stuff. You're just prepared. So like, whatever happens, like, even if nothing happens, at least know you were ready. There's nothing worse than trying to get with a girl and turn around and be like, oh crap, I forgot that, or whatever. You screw it up, and you've really screwed it up for yourself and her. You both ruin you ruin both of your good time. So a lot of the stuff, just remember, like, it kind of sits on you. And you're taking her along this journey. So it's her. You're the director of the show. You're the artistic director, and she's kind of the audience and participating in that sense. She's just going, do I want to sit through an hour and a half or 2 hours of this whole show? And she can get up and walk out at any point. And you're see that interesting analogy, because it sounds like you're qualifying, but you're kind of not. It's just the kind of mating dance between men and women. You're taking her on a journey. Does she want to be part of it? Simple as that. So, I hope that kind of answered the question of, like, the different checkpoints, what I think on various points. There's also lots of other little random stuff that I do on dates, which probably doesn't quite fit in here contextually, because it usually just depends on what that's happened on that date with that girl or whatever. Let me see. Okay, so one example of that is, for example, I was like, at one point during the day, I'll randomly just sit back in my chair and start looking around at the venue, just be like, just point random stuff out. Usually that's in venue one, and be like, oh, look at that. Like, in fact, the other day, I literally got up to look at a picture and was like, that looks bloody hell. I was like quite interested in it. And then she came over and was like, oh, whatever. And that actually was like the second time we broke the touch barrier, because like we were sitting opposite each other. As I said before, like, venue one, you want to be, you want it to be like quite a quote unquote non-threatening environment. So like, whatever. But then she's come over and whatever. So that's stuff that I do. And then you just got to be like quite smart about what's happening. You can't just throw the game, so to speak, and just do something stupid, because it is quite easy to do that. Guys make silly mistakes, but I think if you're going on a date, put the odds in your favor, and just play the right game, really. Women, they're going on dates, and sometimes they're just, getting to know guys, sometimes they're sleeping with the guys, and I realise sometimes they're just sleeping with the guys like me, because I know how to move an interaction forward while simultaneously being really normal. Like, I don't know if I can't remember if I spoke about that on the last podcast, about how like women just want a guy who's normal, like normal with a bit of like extra spice on top. That's all it is really. Like, they don't want someone who's really weird. So that's why I think venue one's really important, and really sets the tone of the interaction. Women just want a normal guy. All right, cool. So you've seen your normal. You've done the normal bit. You've been normal for 40 minutes now. So 40 whole minutes. You've been normal for 40 minutes, not doing anything socially weird. She'll feel comfortable with you. And then when you move into venue two, and you're doing some of the more like, escalating a bit more, but then it's still grounded for that foundation of normalness, and that's the strength of it. And that's some of the feedback I get. Like, they say, "Ooh, you're really a normal guy," and I'm like, "Yep, normal." In fact, I was chatting to a girl last night. Actually, it's fun. I say this because she was. It was like a friend's birthday or something, and this girl came in. I didn't know who she was. I had one look, and I thought, I want that one. And I said to a guy that I was standing next to him, I said, he's just about to get engaged or something. And I was like, her. He's like, yeah, she's bloody hot. And I was like, yeah, she's stunning. And I realised now, like, crap, I really know how to work a room, because the things she said about me, she's like, you seem so confident, it's like this, that, and the other. And then like our actual like interaction was like really sort of quite intense actually. So I took her number, we're gonna go on a date. But Jesus, like anywhere you go, you never know what's gonna happen. You never when there's a chance to meet a lady. And I think that's kind of, like I keep saying, that's all I've ever wanted from being in this community, is that if there's a opportunity presented to me, I want to be able to have the tools to take it and have a nice time with people. It's not like I want everybody to have a good time both ways. So as long as we're both having a good time, it's good. On that note, I'm gonna stop. Hopefully, that did answer the question. I think I need to put up the podcast on. It's gonna be. I think it's social intelligence. I think it's very important on the next like key factors that make a influence on you getting the girl. I think social intelligence is next, and I think that little bit at the end there I was telling you about, like being normal. I'm gonna kind of dig more into that and what that actually means, like from a bigger point of view. All right. Bigger point of view doesn't make sense. We're just gonna widen the scope on that. All right. Thank you for listening, and thank you for all my subscribers so far. Like, I think, sorry, that's me flipping around. We have hit like, I've hit like, I don't know, I think 16 subscribers, which is way. I'm not really promoting this much, and as you can tell, like it's just me talking to a camera, a microphone. So the production value is not great. It's something I'm working on actually. I'm thinking about like introducing like more elements, but I think the first thing I wanted to do was just make sure I'm getting consistent with putting out content. And I had a little break, so I think now it's gonna be gonna get back on it again. So and just get back to what I was planning. Thank you very much, guys, for listening, and catch you next time.